Hi BookTube, welcome back to the BookTubePrize channel. My name is Robert, and today I want to show you 6 new books I received recently as entries for next year's BookTubePrize in nonfiction. All 6 of these happen to be from Knopf. I got a big box from Knopf that kind of cleared out my backlist of requests, so all these are from the same publisher today. The first one is called Crying in Mart, a memoir by Michelle Zauner. When Michelle Zauner was in her mid-20s, working as a waitress and struggling to launch her music career in Philadelphia, she got a call that her mother was ill. She put her life on hold and flew home to Eugene, Oregon, to be with her mother through the final excruciating months of her battle with cancer. This is Zauner's searingly candid coming-of-age story of growing apart from and then back together with her Korean identity and of forging her own path in the wake of a devastating loss. With humor and heart, she tells of growing up Asian American, straining to meet her mother's expectations, moving across the country, and returning home to reckon with grief. She recalls treasured childhood holidays spent in her grandmother's tiny apartment in Seoul, and now in adulthood, learning to cook the Korean dishes that revive and nourish those memories. She savors the unexpected solace of weekly trips to her favorite Asian grocery store. Vivacious and plain-spoken, lyrical and honest, Zauner's voice is as radiantly alive on the page as it is on stage. Crying in Mart is an exquisite debut, a book to cherish, share, and reread. The second one is called The Plague Year, America in the Time of COVID by Wright. From the fateful first moments of the outbreak in China to the extraordinary vaccine rollout, Wright's The Plague Year tells the story of COVID-19 in authoritative, galvanizing detail, and with the full drama of events on both a global and an intimate scale, illuminating the medical, economic, political, and social ramifications of the pandemic. Wright takes us inside the CDC, where a first round of faulty test kits lost America precious time. Inside the halls of the White House, where Deputy National Secretary Advisor Matthew Pottinger's early alarm about the virus was met with confounding and drastically costly skepticism. Into a COVID ward in a Charlottesville hospital with an idealistic young woman doctor from the town of Little Africa, South Carolina. Into the precincts of prediction specialists at Goldman Sachs. Inside the human body, diving deep into the science of how the virus and vaccines function, with an eye-opening detour into the history of vaccination and of the modern anti-vaccination movement. And in this full accounting, Wright makes clear that the medical professionals around the country who have risked their lives to fight the virus reveal and embody an America in all its vulnerability, courage, and potential. In turns steely-eyed, sympathetic, infuriated, unexpectedly comical, and always precise, Wright is a formidable guide, slicing through the dense fog of misinformation to give us a 360-degree portrait of the catastrophe we thought we knew as we lived through it. The third book is called A Most Remarkable Creature, The Hidden Life and Epic Journey of the World's Smartest Birds of Prey by Jonathan Meiburg. In 1833, Charles Darwin met an unusual animal in the Falkland Islands, a handsome, social, and oddly crow-like falcon that was tame and inquisitive, quarrelsome and passionate, and so drawn to anything it didn't recognize that it stole hats, compasses, and other valuables from the crew of the Beagle. Sensing a larger story, Darwin wondered why these odd birds, now called striated caracaras, were confined to remote islands at the tip of South America, but he set this mystery aside and never returned to it. Almost 200 years later, Jonathan Meiburg takes up the chase, leading us on a wild and entertaining journey from the fog-bound coasts of Tierra del Fuego and the Falklands to the tropical forests of Guyana and the deserts of the Andes, in search of these curious birds, their origins, and their possible futures. Like parrots or ravens, the 10 living species of Caracara share a love of play and an affinity for people. We meet scientists, farmers, and boatmen who've been amused and bewildered by them, as well as falconers who have trained them to perform startling feats of memory and insight. Along the way, Meiburg takes us through the surprising history of the Caracara's supremely varied continent and draws us into the life and work of William Henry Hudson, a Victorian writer and naturalist who championed them as an unsung wonder of the world. A bird so cosmopolitan in its tastes would have had a whole volume to itself in England, Hudson declared. Being a poor foreigner, it has had no more than a few unfriendly paragraphs bestowed upon it. A most remarkable creature is a riveting and unique combination of science writing, travelogue, and biography, as generous and accessible as it is sophisticated, and a reminder of how much of our world remains to be discovered. The fourth book is called Finding the Mother Tree, Discovering the Wisdom of the Forest by Suzanne Simard. Suzanne Simard is a pioneer on the frontier of plant communication and intelligence. She's been compared to Rachel Carson, hailed as a scientist who conveys complex technical ideas in a way that is dazzling and profound. Her work has influenced filmmakers, The Tree of Souls of James Cameron's Avatar, and her TED Talks have been viewed by more than 10 million people worldwide. Now, in her first book, Simard brings us into her world, the intimate world of the trees, in which she brilliantly illuminates the fascinating and vital truths that trees are not simply the source of timber or pulp, but are a complicated, interdependent circle of life, that forests are social, cooperative creatures connected through underground networks by which trees communicate their vitality and vulnerabilities with communal lives not that different from our own. Simard describes up close, in revealing and accessible ways, how trees living side by side for hundreds of years have evolved, how they perceive one another, learn and adapt their behaviors, recognize neighbors, and remember the past, how they have agency about their future, how they elicit warnings and mount defenses, compete and cooperate with one another with sophistication, characteristics previously ascribed to human intelligence, traits that are the essence of civil societies. And at the center of it all, the mother trees, the mysterious, powerful forces that connect and sustain the others that surround them. Simard, born and raised in the rainforests of British Columbia, spent her days as a child cataloging the trees from the forest. She came to love and respect them and embarked on a journey of discovery and struggle. Her powerful story is one of love and loss, of observation and change, of risk and reward. And it's a testament to how deeply human scientific inquiry exists beyond data and technology. It's about understanding who we are and our place in the world. In her book, as in her groundbreaking research, Simard proves the true connectedness of the mother tree to the forest, nurturing it in the profound ways that families and human societies nurture one another, and how these inseparable bonds enable all our survival. The fifth book is called Notes on Grief by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. During the brutal summer of 2020, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's beloved father, a celebrated professor at the University of Nigeria and an irreplaceable figure in a close-knit family, succumbed unexpectedly to complications of kidney failure. Notes on Grief is Adichie's tribute to him and a moving meditation on loss. Here, Adichie offers a candid snapshot of the shock, loneliness, and disillusionment that followed the news of her father's death. Her family, unable to be together except for on video calls, struggles to go through the rites of mourning amid a global crisis of unimaginable scale. As Adichie wrestles with his passing, she recalls with vivid, poignant detail who her father was: a remarkable survivor of the Biafran War, a man of kindness and charm, and a fierce supporter of his youngest daughter. Here is a uniquely personal, profound work of remembrance and hope by one of today's luminaries, a book to bring us together in a time when we need it most. And the sixth book is called Speak Okinawa, a Memoir by Elizabeth Miki Brina. Elizabeth's mother was working as a hostess in a nightclub on U.S.-occupied Okinawa when she met the American soldier who would become her husband. The language barrier and power imbalance that defined their early relationship followed them to the predominantly white upstate New York suburb where they moved to raise their only daughter. There, Elizabeth grew up with all the trappings of a typical American childhood and adolescence. While she felt almost no connection to her mother's distant home, neither did she feel comfortable among her peers. It wasn't until decades later that Elizabeth finally recognized the shame and self-loathing that haunted both her and her mother. In Speak Okinawa, Elizabeth Miki Brina comes to terms with the embattled dynamics of her own family and reckons with the injustices that reverberate throughout the history of Okinawa and its people. Clear-eyed and profoundly humane, her book is a startling accomplishment, a heartfelt exploration of identity, inheritance, forgiveness, and what it means to be an American. Okay, those are 6 new entries for next year's BookTube Prize in the nonfiction category. I have several more of these introduction videos staring me in the face, so I'll be back with you again soon with 6 more books. Bye, everybody.